My sister yelled that I was mentally unstable for hiding my income, then tried to sabotage my business with anonymous reviews. When I asked why she created a group chat without me during Dad's stroke, she rolled her eyes and said, "We didn't think you'd understand the medical terms." I just stared at her. That was 9 weeks ago. Last night, she locked herself in her apartment and cried so quietly, I almost missed it, until Ethan came by to pick up his things. I'm the middle child of 4. My older brother became a cardiologist, and my 2 sisters are both social workers. Me? I work in the elementary school cafeteria, making $11.75 an hour, serving chicken nuggets and chocolate milk. Growing up, my family never let me forget I was the ugly duckling. Every Christmas, my sister Monica would find me in the kitchen helping Mom. "Jenna, you need to think bigger. You can't hide in kitchens forever." My big brother would chime in, "At least get your degree first," adjusting his Harvard pin. Like, "Thanks, I actually never thought of that before." Their homes had security systems and 3-car garages. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment by the railroad tracks and took the bus to work. They drove BMWs with heated seats. When we went out for Mom's birthday, they ordered bottles of wine. I stuck with water. But here's what none of them knew. For the past 15 years, I'd been running a restaurant consulting business out of my apartment. Started it when I was 25, with just an Excel spreadsheet and a calculator. Grew it through Instagram posts and word of mouth. Nothing glamorous, just me analyzing food costs and building systems until 4 a.m. My client list now includes a dozen steakhouses and 3 major hotel chains downtown. I charge anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 per project, depending on the scope. Last year, after expenses, I cleared $340,000. I never told anyone in my family because, honestly, I liked being underestimated. Then, Dad had a stroke, a massive one that left him partially paralyzed. No one told me. I found out when Mom casually mentioned it during our weekly phone call. "Your siblings won't be around. They're trying to figure out what to do about Dad." Oh, what happened? I asked calmly because if I got upset, Mom would clam up. And that's when she said it. My freaking siblings made a group chat without me. I hung up and immediately called Lucas. Hey, maybe it was a mistake, but why wasn't I included in the conversations about Dad? He sighed, like he was explaining long division to a toddler. "Jenna, we need to be realistic here. Good care facilities cost $8,000 a month. If you can get someone to cover your little hairnet job, maybe you can visit once a month." I told him I take care of Dad myself. He actually snorted. "I know you're not thinking of bringing him to that shoebox you live in. Jenna, Dad needs round-the-clock medical care. This isn't like scooping mashed potatoes onto plastic trays." Then Monica jumped in on the call. "Lucas is right. We're talking about real adult responsibilities here, not something you can handle on a cafeteria worker's salary. He needs proper care." As if I'd just plop Dad down with some tater tots and call it a day. That weekend, I did something they'll regret forever. I drove around looking for houses for sale. Found a perfect rent-style place with wide hallways and a ground-floor master bedroom, just how Dad likes it. Put in a cash offer, $20,000 over asking. While my siblings argued about Medicare coverage, I hired contractors to install grab bars and a roll-in shower, interviewed home health agencies until I found the right team, all while they were still sending each other links to depressing nursing homes an hour away from anyone. 3 weeks after his discharge, I moved Dad in. Didn't tell a soul, just showed up at the hospital with the medical transport I'd arranged. Lucas was there arguing with the social worker about temporary placement. "It's handled," I said, signing the discharge papers. "Dad's coming home with me." Monica laughed, that sharp, bitter laugh she perfected in childhood. "Jenna, stop. This is embarrassing. You can barely afford your own life." My younger brother Ryan finally chimed in. "Let her try and fail. She'll come begging for help in a week when reality hits." 6 months passed. I cared for Dad while running my business. He'd sit at my kitchen table watching me work, organizing files, telling stories about his army days. My siblings barely visited.
Monica said she was too busy. Lucas didn't want to get stuck in traffic. Ryan just stopped replying to texts. But they kept their group chat going. Mom would casually bring up their ongoing debates about long-term care facilities, like they were counting down the days until I failed. But then, something beautiful happened. And it arrived in the form of something big, bold, and black. Monica's crepey little husband spotted my name on the speaker board at a restaurant industry conference. In large black lettering, it read, "Jenna Collins, turning failed restaurants into million-dollar success stories." He snapped a picture and sent it to the family group chat with 3 question marks. I just laughed and turned my phone off. But when I woke up, my screen was flooded with missed calls and dozens of texts. The first voicemail was furious. The second one was threatening. By the 10th, they were practically begging to talk this out rationally. The first message I opened was from Monica. "Pathological liar!" Then another, "How dare you hide this from us while we've been worried sick over Dad's medical costs?" I set the phone down and focused on making breakfast for Dad. My hands stayed calm as I scrambled his eggs the way he liked, soft, with a touch of cream. The phone buzzed non-stop against the countertop, making the salt shaker rattle and dance. Dad noticed the noise from his wheelchair. His good hand reached toward the phone, raising his eyebrows in silent question. "Just the family having feelings," I said, setting his plate on the tray that locked onto his chair. "Nothing that can't wait until after breakfast." Then the phone rang. Lucas's name flashed across the screen. I answered on speaker while adjusting Dad's napkin, knowing full well he'd want to hear whatever spectacle was coming. "Fraud! Identity theft! Corporate deception! I have lawyer friends, Jenna! This charade ends now!" Dad's eyes widened. His good hand clenched his fork tighter. I kept my tone even. "I never lied to anyone, Lucas. I just never corrected your assumptions." "You let us believe you were broke! You watched us stress over Dad's care while you were sitting on a fortune! I'll expose you, Jenna! I'll tell everyone at Brighton Elementary what kind of person you really are! They deserve to know their cafeteria lady is a con artist!" Click. The call ended. Dad's egg sat untouched. His face looked more alert than it had in weeks. A knock came at the door. It was Mrs. Chen from next door, standing on my porch with a casserole dish and her usual worried look. "I heard shouting," she said, peering past me toward Dad. "Everything okay? I brought extra lasagna from last night." Mrs. Chen had been bringing meals twice a week since Dad moved in, never accepting payment, always staying to chat about their shared love of old war movies. She saw firsthand how serious I was about his care, and often commented on the medical upgrades and equipment around the house. "Family drama," I admitted, taking the dish. "But we're managing." She patted my arm. "Your father is lucky to have you. Not many daughters would do what you do." As she walked away, my phone lit up again. New message from Monica. "On my way over. You will explain yourself." I helped Dad finish his breakfast and started prepping him for physical therapy. His therapist would arrive at 8 sharp. I needed him ready. While gathering his resistance bands, I heard a car door slam. Then another. A fist pounded against the front door. "Open up, Jenna! We're not leaving until you explain this sick joke!" Through the window, I spotted Ryan's car pulling in behind Monica's, all 3 of them descending like a thunderstorm. I opened the door to find them huddled on my porch. Ryan held his phone up, already recording. "For documentation, in case we need it for legal action!" They barged in without invitation. Monica led the charge into the living room. Their eyes swept over the hospital bed in the corner, the ceiling-mounted lift system, and the meticulously organized shelves of medical supplies. Lucas halted in the bathroom doorway, staring at the roll-in shower and professional grab bars. "This must have cost a fortune," Monica said, spinning toward the kitchen. Then she noticed my desk in the corner, business cards still scattered from yesterday's video call.
She snatched one up, reading aloud, "Jenna Collins, CEO, Collins Restaurant Solutions." Her face lost all color. "CEO?" Lucas changed tactics instantly.
Obviously a scam. You've been exploiting vulnerable restaurant owners, haven't you? Taking advantage of struggling businesses during hard times. The doorbell rang. Dad's physical therapist had arrived right on schedule. I opened the door and let Catherine in. My siblings moved awkwardly aside as she wheeled her equipment past them. "Morning, Mr. Collins," she said brightly. "Ready to work those legs today?" While she got Dad positioned for his exercises, I pulled out my laptop. My siblings watched as I navigated to my business banking portal. "7 figures," Ryan whispered, lowering his phone, suddenly more curious than combative. "Monica, do you see the tax implications here? She's been hiding assets while claiming nothing," I cut in. "I never asked any of you for money, never said I was broke. You just assumed." Monica was already on the phone. "Mom, you need to hear this. Jenna's been lying to us. She's actually rich, hiding money while we were losing our minds trying to pay for Dad's care." I pulled up the old family group chat on my phone, the one I'd been excluded from, and scrolled through months of messages. There it was, their careful math about what my share of Dad's care should be. Based on her hourly wage, Jenna can contribute $73 monthly. "That seems high," Monica responded. "She has rent to pay on that dump, $50 max." Ryan had agreed. We can't expect more from someone in her position. I turned the screen toward them. "This is what you thought I was worth." Well, the family meeting nobody invited just turned into a surprise episode of Guess Who's Actually Rich? And watching 3 siblings realize their broke sister out-earns all of them combined, that gave me a kind of satisfaction I didn't know I needed. $50 toward Dad's care. Lucas grabbed his phone and took a screenshot of my photo from Brighton Elementary's website. Within seconds, he blasted it to our extended family group chat with the caption, "Our millionaire sister who's been pretending to be poor." My phone rang. The principal's name popped up. "Jenna, I'm getting calls about a family emergency. Your brother said you need to be pulled from your shift immediately." "There's no emergency," I assured her. "I'll be there for lunch service as usual." "Oh, good. We can't run without you. But, Jenna, is everything okay? Your sister also called. She sounded very upset." After I hung up, another call came through, this one from the district office. "Jenna, we received a troubling report about financial irregularities. Someone claiming to be a relative said you've been involved in fraud." Monica didn't even try to look guilty. "People deserve to know who they're trusting with their kids' food," she said with a shrug. Catherine kept working with Dad, unbothered by the chaos around her. She focused entirely on helping him stretch and move, professionally ignoring the rising drama. Dad, though, was watching everything. His eyes moved slowly from one sibling to another, more alert than I'd seen in weeks. I shut my laptop. I need to go see Mom. She deserves to hear the truth from me, not through one of Monica's hysterical phone calls. "We're not done here," Lucas warned. But I was already grabbing my keys, leaving them all inside with Dad and Catherine, confident she could handle things until I got back. Mom's apartment was 20 minutes away. I found her at the kitchen table, eyes red from crying. Monica's version of the story had clearly landed. "How could you?" she asked, voice shaking. "How could you let us all worry like that?" I pulled up 5 years of corporate tax returns on my phone, set it on the table, and let her scroll through the numbers. "You paid more in taxes last year than Lucas makes in a year," she whispered. "I built this business while everyone thought I was flailing, started from scratch with nothing but determination and the same skills everyone used to mock." My phone buzzed again. 3 new messages from restaurant clients. "Hey, got a weird call about your family. Everything okay?" Monica had found my conference bio online. Public information, now weaponized. Another message from Mrs. Chen. "Someone was taking pictures of your house this morning. Just thought you should know." Then one from Dad's nurse. "Your brother tried to interrogate me during today's visit, wanted to know what your real job is."
"I told him nothing," the nurse wrote, "but wanted you to be aware." I showed Mom the messages. "This is what they're doing," I said, "trying to tear down everything I've built because they can't handle being wrong about me." A notification popped up on my phone. A new Google review had just been posted to my business page by an anonymous user. "Dishonest to her own family. If she'll lie to them, what else is she hiding? Cannot be trusted." My biggest client called almost immediately. "Jenna, I just saw this review. What's going on?" I explained briefly, keeping it professional, avoiding the messier family details. He listened, then said, "I'll post our testimonial today. Anyone who saved my restaurants like you did deserves better than this." By the time I got home, my siblings were gone. Catherine was just finishing up with Dad, who looked worn out but proud of his progress. 40% more range of motion than last month, she reported. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up. The consistency here is really making a difference." After she left, I sat with Dad while he rested. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Texts from Uncle Pete asking if I needed bail money, former classmates reacting to the drama online, more clients reaching out in concern. Dad reached for my hand, squeezing with the strength he had left. His eyes, clearer than they'd been in weeks, met mine with quiet understanding. I squeezed back. "We're okay, Dad," I said. "Let them rage. We know the truth." The next morning, the attacks escalated again. Monica's Facebook rants about family betrayal and wolves in sheep's clothing had picked up steam overnight. Mutual friends were taking sides, most without even knowing the whole story. I took screenshots, the posts calling me mentally unstable, the comments from strangers speculating about my character. I saved every piece of it in case I'd need it later. Back at work, serving lunch to 500 elementary school kids, I could feel the whispers from the parent volunteers. Some avoided eye contact, others watched too closely. But Maria, who'd worked beside me for 8 years, stood tall. "Anyone who believes that crap doesn't know you," she said loud enough for people to hear. 15 years you've been here, never missed a day, treating these kids like they're yours." The principal stopped by during service. "HR wants to meet with you. It's about financial disclosure concerns." "I understand," I said calmly, scooping nuggets onto trays without missing a beat. "When?" "Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Jenna, I want you to know I'm in your corner. Whatever's happening with your family, it doesn't change who you are here." That night, I installed security cameras around the house. The trash bins had been moved again. All the flyers I kept in my car for networking events had disappeared. Someone was going beyond angry texts now. Dad watched from his wheelchair as I adjusted the last camera. He nodded in approval. His speech therapy had progressed enough for him to manage 2 words: smart girl. 3 restaurant owners called that evening. All offered to write letters to the school board on my behalf. One of them, the owner of the board president's favorite lunch spot, said she saved us from bankruptcy back in 2018, completely restructured our business. I'll make sure they know exactly who Jenna Collins really is. The irony wasn't lost on me. My siblings' campaign to destroy my reputation was only revealing how many people I'd quietly helped over the years. People were stepping up, sharing testimonials I'd never asked for, offering support I hadn't expected. But the attacks didn't stop. Someone called Dad's doctor, pretending to review his care arrangement. The bank notified me of suspicious attempts to verify my access to Dad's accounts. Monica reached out to my first client from 2009, trying to dig up dirt on me. Each of these attempts ended in the same way: confusion from the people who actually knew me. My clients, my neighbors, my colleagues, they all saw through it. But even with the support, it was exhausting. Playing defense while trying to keep things steady for Dad took everything I had. Then came the breakthrough. During a family dinner, with Monica in the room, Dad managed his first clear sentence in months. "Jenna, good daughter." Monica stood up and stormed out without saying a word. The next morning, Lucas showed up at the school, right in the middle of my shift. I saw him through the serving window, standing stiff in the cafeteria entrance, dressed in a sharp suit, scanning the lunch line like he was conducting a clinical exam. The kids picked up on the tension instantly.
A few kids stopped chatting to watch the stranger in the suit, who clearly didn't belong. I kept ladling mac and cheese onto trays, movements steady, as Lucas made his way to the counter. He leaned over the sneeze guard, his cologne cutting through the scent of steamed trays and powdered cheese. I could see it in his eyes. He was calculating how to make this as humiliating as possible. He demanded I return the wealth I'd supposedly stolen from the family. His voice carried across the cafeteria, loud enough to make a few teachers look up from their lunch supervision. I didn't say a word, just kept portioning food like nothing had happened. Lucas's expression twisted in frustration as he realized I wouldn't take the bait in front of children. A moment later, the principal appeared beside him, calmly but firmly walking him toward the exit. He went, but not before announcing to the entire room that I'd soon be hearing from his lawyers about the family assets I'd hidden. Some parents exchanged uneasy glances. The damage was done. That afternoon, I received a quiet text from Ryan's wife, Ashley. I had no idea about any of this. I'm sorry. It was short, but it seemed sincere. I filed it away, uncertain what to make of the first crack in the family alliance. While I was helping Dad with his evening meds, the conference organizer called. Next month's keynote was still on schedule, they said, but given my current situation, they were happy to postpone. I'll be there, I said, without hesitation. From his chair, Dad nodded. He understood how important it was to maintain professional commitments. Later that night, while reviewing everything that had happened, a realization hit me. My siblings had only targeted what was easy to find. They'd contacted my workplace and neighbors, they'd found my name on public conference listings, but they hadn't dug into the heart of my business, the clients I'd built relationships with over years. Their attacks were shallow, surface level. Meanwhile, 3 restaurant owners, unprompted, offered to write letters to the school board in support of me. The owner of Morello's, a favorite lunch spot of the board president, was especially insistent. He saved us from shutting our doors, he told me, completely rebuilt our operations when we were weeks from bankruptcy in 2018. They'll know exactly who you are. Unbeknownst to me, Maria had rallied the cafeteria team. They quietly coordinated to cover my duties any time a family crisis arose. The principal noticed and pulled me aside. I've rarely seen this kind of loyalty, she said. It says everything. Dad's physical therapist reported his best session yet that morning. Catherine credited it to the consistent care and calm home environment. He'd surpassed expectations again, another 15% gain in range of motion. I documented everything. If I needed proof of my caregiving and character, I wanted it ready. Each day, I kept balancing business calls between shifts, serving lunch with a smile while my phone buzzed constantly in my pocket. Lucas showing up at an elementary school in a tailored suit to berate someone serving mac and cheese was like showing up to a food fight in a tuxedo, dramatic, overdressed, and completely missing the point. Years of running a business while working full-time had taught me how to compartmentalize. That skill was saving me now. Monica cornered me that evening in the Kroger parking lot. I had just finished grocery shopping for Dad's specialized diet. She appeared beside my car, tense and flushed. I calmly took out my phone and hit record, making it clear the conversation was being documented. She launched into a rant about betrayal, about being blindsided and lied to. I said nothing, loading groceries into my trunk. Then something unexpected happened. Her voice cracked. She looked away and muttered, "I was always jealous." The words startled both of us, but before I could respond, she covered it in more anger, barking another accusation to hide the truth she'd let slip. The next morning, the editor of the Midtown Business Journal called. They'd heard about my work through the Restaurant Association and wanted to feature me in their local success stories column. I agreed, finally seeing a chance to control the narrative. Later that afternoon, Ashley came by while Ryan was at work. She looked uncomfortable but determined. "I'm sorry," she said as I let her in, "for how he's been, for all of this. I didn't know half of what was happening." We sat in the kitchen while Dad napped nearby, and she shared her perspective. I listened. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered. That night, I showed Mom the group chat history on my phone. For the first time, she saw it all. Message after message, months of them. Her face grew paler with each screen. They had calculated my contributions based on minimum wage.
They discussed my limitations and what they called realistic expectations for someone in my position. They even said I probably wouldn't understand the medical terminology related to Dad's care. Mom's hands trembled as she handed the phone back. The evidence was all there, clear as day. They had systematically excluded me, minimized me. She'd been part of some of those conversations herself, though she insisted she hadn't paid much attention to the details at the time. Then, something happened that struck deeper than any of their attacks. My clients organized an appreciation dinner without telling me. I showed up expecting a routine consultation and walked into a private dining room where 20 restaurant owners stood waiting. They had each prepared statements, testimonials about how my work had transformed their businesses. I was overwhelmed, more moved than I'd ever been by anything my siblings had said or done. Of course, Lucas happened to be driving past and saw my car outside the upscale restaurant. He stormed in, brushed past the hostess, and confronted me in the middle of the dinner. The entire room went silent as he accused me of flaunting my wealth while our family suffered. But it wasn't the moment he thought it was, because everyone there could see the truth. The desperation in his voice revealed more about him than it ever did about me. The restaurant owner calmly escorted him out. Afterward, several clients came up to me privately. They shared their own stories of siblings who'd resented their success, of family members who turned envious instead of supportive. That moment didn't damage my reputation. It strengthened my relationships. Then came unexpected support from the school community. 3 families from Brighton Elementary reached out. They told me they'd heard the real story from business owners I'd worked with. One parent said her family's business only survived because of my help 3 years ago. Her kids now attended the school where I served lunch. "We stand behind you," she said. Then Paul, Monica's husband, sent a message, a short text. "I'm sorry about the photo. I didn't realize it would cause all this." It felt carefully worded, like he was trying to step away from the chaos, but it was something. And then, Mom made a discovery that changed her entire perspective. While going through an old box of cards and letters, she found several from Dad addressed to me. "Proud of my entrepreneur," one read. "Dated 5 years ago, when my siblings were still mocking my cafeteria job." "My daughter, the business owner," said another. Dad had known, all along, and he'd kept my secret. The security company I hired started their first round of surveillance the following week. After finding Lucas parked outside my house 3 separate times, just sitting in his car watching, I'd had enough. Technically, it wasn't illegal, but it was disturbing. The security team installed more cameras and began random patrols. Meanwhile, the entire cafeteria team at school signed a letter of support addressed to the school board. Maria had quietly coordinated everything, gathering signatures from every current and even retired staff member who had worked with me over the years. It was humbling, emotional. Monica's Facebook rants, on the other hand, were spiraling out of control. Her posts grew erratic, long, rambling diatribes filled with contradictions and barely coherent accusations. Mutual friends began stepping away. Some even messaged me privately, apologizing for having believed her at all. Then, Dad hit a milestone. During a routine visit, the social worker watched as he slowly and shakily wrote on his communication board, "Jenna stays." 2 simple words, but they carried so much weight. The social worker was impressed, not just with Dad's progress, but with the quality of care in the home. She complimented the professional-grade medical equipment, the clean and detailed care logs I maintained daily. And then came the article. The Midtown Business Journal published the story. "Cafeteria worker builds consulting empire while serving students." The piece highlighted my dual career, my dedication to the school, and my thriving consulting business. My phone exploded with messages from clients and colleagues who hadn't known I worked in food service. Messages of congratulations, of admiration. I pulled out my old district employee handbook and thumbed through my records. 15 years of perfect attendance, not a single sick day, all while building a business that demanded long nights, early mornings, and relentless drive. My siblings had never understood what real discipline looked like. Then, Mom's lease expired. She asked to move in with Dad and me.
Her voice shook when she asked, tears in her eyes. She admitted she'd chosen the wrong side. I agreed. It felt like a chance to rebuild something between us and to offer Dad even more consistent support. Then, the Restaurant Association board member called with something unsettling. Monica had reached out to file a formal complaint against me. She accused me of running an unlicensed operation, of defrauding clients.
They discussed my limitations and what they called realistic expectations for someone in my position. They even said I probably wouldn't understand the medical terminology related to Dad's care. Mom's hands trembled as she handed the phone back. The evidence was all there, clear as day. They had systematically excluded me, minimized me. She'd been part of some of those conversations herself, though she insisted she hadn't paid much attention to the details at the time. Then, something happened that struck deeper than any of their attacks. My clients organized an appreciation dinner without telling me. I showed up expecting a routine consultation and walked into a private dining room where 20 restaurant owners stood waiting. They had each prepared statements, testimonials about how my work had transformed their businesses. I was overwhelmed, more moved than I'd ever been by anything my siblings had said or done. Of course, Lucas happened to be driving past and saw my car outside the upscale restaurant. He stormed in, brushed past the hostess, and confronted me in the middle of the dinner. The entire room went silent as he accused me of flaunting my wealth while our family suffered. But it wasn't the moment he thought it was, because everyone there could see the truth. The desperation in his voice revealed more about him than it ever did about me. The restaurant owner calmly escorted him out. Afterward, several clients came up to me privately. They shared their own stories of siblings who'd resented their success, of family members who turned envious instead of supportive. That moment didn't damage my reputation. It strengthened my relationships. Then came unexpected support from the school community. 3 families from Brighton Elementary reached out. They told me they'd heard the real story from business owners I'd worked with. One parent said her family's business only survived because of my help 3 years ago. Her kids now attended the school where I served lunch. "We stand behind you," she said. Then Paul, Monica's husband, sent a message, a short text. "I'm sorry about the photo. I didn't realize it would cause all this." It felt carefully worded, like he was trying to step away from the chaos, but it was something. And then, Mom made a discovery that changed her entire perspective. While going through an old box of cards and letters, she found several from Dad addressed to me. "Proud of my entrepreneur," one read. "Dated 5 years ago, when my siblings were still mocking my cafeteria job." "My daughter, the business owner," said another. Dad had known, all along, and he'd kept my secret. The security company I hired started their first round of surveillance the following week. After finding Lucas parked outside my house 3 separate times, just sitting in his car watching, I'd had enough. Technically, it wasn't illegal, but it was disturbing. The security team installed more cameras and began random patrols. Meanwhile, the entire cafeteria team at school signed a letter of support addressed to the school board. Maria had quietly coordinated everything, gathering signatures from every current and even retired staff member who had worked with me over the years. It was humbling, emotional. Monica's Facebook rants, on the other hand, were spiraling out of control. Her posts grew erratic, long, rambling diatribes filled with contradictions and barely coherent accusations. Mutual friends began stepping away. Some even messaged me privately, apologizing for having believed her at all. Then, Dad hit a milestone. During a routine visit, the social worker watched as he slowly and shakily wrote on his communication board, "Jenna stays." 2 simple words, but they carried so much weight. The social worker was impressed, not just with Dad's progress, but with the quality of care in the home. She complimented the professional-grade medical equipment, the clean and detailed care logs I maintained daily. And then came the article. The Midtown Business Journal published the story. "Cafeteria worker builds consulting empire while serving students." The piece highlighted my dual career, my dedication to the school, and my thriving consulting business. My phone exploded with messages from clients and colleagues who hadn't known I worked in food service. Messages of congratulations, of admiration. I pulled out my old district employee handbook and thumbed through my records. 15 years of perfect attendance, not a single sick day, all while building a business that demanded long nights, early mornings, and relentless drive. My siblings had never understood what real discipline looked like. Then, Mom's lease expired. She asked to move in with Dad and me. Her voice shook when she asked, tears in her eyes. She admitted she'd chosen the wrong side. I agreed. It felt like a chance to rebuild something between us and to offer Dad even more consistent support. Then, the Restaurant Association board member called with something unsettling. Monica had reached out to file a formal complaint against me. She accused me of running an unlicensed operation, of defrauding clients.
The board member dismissed the complaint immediately. He knew my reputation too well, but wanted me to be aware of the attempt. Soon after, a scheduling conflict forced a difficult choice. Dad had an important neurological appointment scheduled the same day as my keynote presentation at the conference. The decision was instant and easy. I chose Dad. I asked the conference organizers to stream my talk instead. During the virtual session, I spoke about priorities, about how success is hollow without people who genuinely support you. My words hit home. The stream drew more viewers than the in-person keynote would have. Several new clients reached out afterward, specifically mentioning how much they appreciated my authentic message about work-life balance. Meanwhile, Lucas's behavior was catching up with him. His medical partners had noticed changes: erratic behavior, distracted consultations, stepping out during appointments to take personal calls, and worst of all, leaving early to go check on my house. His senior partner sat him down to address the concerns. His professional standing was at risk now, not just his ego. Back on my end, the school board completed their investigation, cleared me of all wrongdoing. The HR meeting I'd been dreading turned out to be a formality. The board president himself showed up, having heard positive testimonials from restaurant owners throughout the community. They apologized for the inconvenience, commended me for my years of service. That evening, Ryan showed up on my doorstep holding the spare key I'd given him years ago. He looked sheepish, like a kid forced to say sorry after breaking a window. He mumbled an apology without making eye contact, admitted Ashley had pushed him to come. It was awkward, but it was something. Progress, maybe. Then Monica sent what felt like a final desperate salvo, a long rambling text listing all the sacrifices she had made for me over the years. She said I owed them for dinners, favors, and emotional labor. She had fully rewritten history, casting herself as my lifelong benefactor. I didn't argue. I just replied with receipts. Screenshots of dinner bills I'd paid when they thought I was broke, photos of birthday gifts I'd sent, messages offering help they'd brushed off or ignored. All of it, neatly dated and documented. The silence that followed lasted for 2 full weeks. No calls, no texts, not even a bitter social media post. But I knew better than to think it was over. It felt like the eye of a storm, not the end of one. During that quiet spell, something lovely began to take shape. Dad's old friends started visiting. His army buddies, his poker crew, a few folks from his old church. Word had spread that he was doing better, and they came by to see for themselves. His former pastor took my hand and said, "We always knew you'd make it. We watched you work 2 jobs in high school. We saw your strength." 3 new clients contacted me after hearing my story through professional networks. One stood out, a country club restaurant where Lucas happened to be a member. They needed a complete overhaul and had specifically asked for me. After sharing my story at the virtual conference, how I'd built a consulting business while serving elementary school lunches, I received a standing ovation. My dual life resonated deeply with small business owners who'd faced skepticism from their own families. When I got home, my siblings' cars were already in the driveway. Through the living room window, I could see them surrounding Mom.
Their postures were aggressive, leaning in, gesturing sharply, voices clearly raised. They were trying to pressure her into forcing the sale of Dad's assets for his care. I stepped inside and found them in full manipulation mode. Paperwork covered the coffee table. Robert had some legal document in his hand, something about conservatorship. Dad sat in his wheelchair near the window, his jaw clenched tight. I said nothing, just set down my conference materials and kept my face neutral. The next morning, I got a text from a lawyer friend. "Heads up, I overheard Lucas talking about filing for conservatorship at the country club. You might want to get ahead of it." That warning gave me a 2-day head start. Between the constant driveway surveillance and Lucas parking outside like some kind of medical degree stalker, I'd had enough. He was taking house calls to a new and deeply creepy level. I drove straight to the courthouse, filed for official caregiving authority with Dad's full support. His signature was steady, his eyes were clear. Catherine, his therapist, followed up with a formal statement in our next session, praising the quality and consistency of his care under my roof.
Catherine documented everything: Dad's progress, the professional-grade equipment, and the consistency of his care plan. Her medical assessment carried authority, and not even my siblings could argue with it. 3 days later, Monica found out I'd already filed the legal paperwork. She cornered me outside the courthouse, having gone to check on the status of their failed conservatorship attempt. Her face was tight with fury as she hissed, "This isn't over." Unbeknownst to her, a local reporter covering an unrelated story had overheard the exchange. He started taking notes. The anonymous harassment started the next morning. I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. "Some people should stay in their place." The handwriting was blocky, clearly disguised. Could have been anyone. But security footage from my new camera setup showed a hooded figure near the driveway at the exact time the note appeared. The face was obscured, but the timing coincided perfectly with my siblings' supposed conservatorship attempt. The staff at Brighton Elementary grew worried. Maria organized a buddy system so no one had to walk to their car alone after closing. The principal increased security patrols during lunch service. The kids sensed the tension, but in the way children do, they adapted, with quiet resilience. Then a crisis hit. One of my major clients had a complete point-of-sale system failure during a packed weekend. Thousands in revenue were on the line. While juggling security updates and check-ins about Dad's safety, I had to manage the emergency remotely. Back-to-back phone calls, tech troubleshooting, contract vendors, backups. Eventually, I made the difficult decision to take a week off from school to focus on business and home security. It felt like a loss, like I was giving my siblings what they wanted. But Dad came first. The kids at Brighton responded by creating a massive banner that read, "We miss Jenna." They hung it in the cafeteria window. Thanksgiving loomed, with its usual emotional baggage. Mom insisted on hosting dinner at my house. She said the family needed to face reality together and no amount of reasoning could change her mind. She'd already told the others and made it clear, show up or risk her disappointment. Monica arrived 2 hours early, allegedly to help with cooking, though it quickly became clear she was really there to work on Mom. From the hallway, I heard her spinning her usual story, painting me as deceptive, victimizing herself. Meanwhile, I was helping Dad through his morning routine. Mom's responses grew colder as the minutes passed, short, flat. It was clear Monica's manipulations were starting to wear thin. Lucas arrived next. He went straight to the couch and pulled out his phone, scrolling through the old family group chat. He started reading aloud, every joke about my cafeteria job, every backhanded comment about my future, as if reading it would somehow justify their behavior. But the irony, it was reciting evidence of their cruelty, not mine, and he didn't even realize it. Then came Ashley and Ryan. Ashley pulled me aside quietly. Her hand rested on her stomach as she told me she was pregnant. She said she wanted her child to grow up differently, not surrounded by toxicity, not raised in the kind of family dynamic we'd endured.
Her declaration of support felt like a quiet but powerful shift in the tides. At dinner, the tension was thick enough to slice, a minefield of passive aggression and fragile egos. I focused on Dad, making sure he could eat comfortably despite the storm of energy at the table. My siblings picked at their food, swallowing their resentment more than their turkey. Then I did something no one expected. I offered to help them with their debt. The words hung in the air like a live wire. Lucas turned red immediately, practically shaking. "I don't need your pity money," he snapped. But the outburst revealed the truth. Despite his cardiologist's salary, he was drowning in student debt, living beyond his means. Monica was next. She broke. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted Paul had left her. He'd seen her Facebook rants, watched her unravel online. He wanted no part of it anymore. The divorce papers had already been filed. Her carefully curated social media life was in ruins. And then Dad spoke. He wheeled himself to the dining room entrance, posture strong, gaze clear. "All my children are successful," he said. The words weren't about money. They were about effort, sacrifice, growth. Coming from him, they landed differently. Ryan spoke next. He didn't cry, didn't raise his voice. He just admitted that he'd followed Lucas and Monica's lead, never questioned the narrative, never thought to look closer. It was the most honest moment of the night. And I made one thing clear. There would be no moving forward without one condition. Respect. Respect for all types of work. I would keep my cafeteria job because those kids mattered to me.
The work had dignity, whether my siblings ever recognized it or not. My success in business never diminished the value of serving lunch to elementary school kids. Lucas finally cracked. He admitted his resentment came from the weight of crushing student loans. He'd assumed I lived pressure-free while he scraped by despite his impressive salary. The truth explained years of condescension. He'd been projecting his financial stress onto me. For the first time in decades, we had an honest conversation. It wasn't comfortable, it wasn't tidy, but it was real. Over turkey and stuffing, years of assumptions and buried resentment came spilling into the light. Mom watched it unfold with tears in her eyes, finally seeing the dynamics she'd allowed to fester. She announced that night that she was staying with me permanently. Her lease was up. Most of her belongings were already here. She admitted what I already knew. I was the only one who had visited Dad regularly before the stroke. The only one who'd shown up for family when there was nothing to gain. My phone buzzed with a client message during dessert, but for once, I didn't check it. Family came first, even the messy, painful, dysfunctional kind, when it's working through healing. The business would be fine for a few hours. 6 months later, life had taken on a new rhythm. I still served lunch at Brighton Elementary before heading to afternoon consultations. The kids welcomed me back with handmade cards and tight hugs. Their parents now knew about the business, but it didn't change how they saw me. I was still Miss Jenna, the one who knew their kids' names and favorite meals. At my second conference keynote, Dad walked with a walker. His recovery had stunned every doctor involved. He sat proudly in the front row as I spoke about building success without abandoning your roots. He wasn't just a symbol of progress. He was a quiet revolution in motion. Mom had become a vital part of my business. She now managed scheduling and correspondence from home. Her sharp organizational skills finally used for something that built instead of broke. Ryan brought his baby daughter to visit every week. Ashley had delivered a healthy girl, one who would grow up in a home that respected all kinds of work. Ryan had started therapy to address the ways he'd let others do his thinking. He was owning his part now. Lucas, at a medical fundraiser, introduced me to colleagues as his successful sister. No qualifiers, no sarcasm. I knew it cost him, but he did it anyway. We weren't close, might never be, but that moment meant something. Monica went through serious therapy. She began facing the jealousy and resentment that had colored her view of me for years. We kept communication minimal, just updates about Dad. Paul had been her anchor, and without him, she was finally confronting the hard truths. The family wasn't perfect. We'd likely never have easy holidays or spontaneous sibling get-togethers. But we'd found honesty. The truth I'd brought into the light had shattered their convenient stories. It had forced growth that should have happened a long time ago. My business kept thriving, and I kept showing up in the cafeteria. Clients respected the balance. They saw my commitment not as a limitation, but as integrity in action. Brighton Elementary became a quiet badge of trust. If I could show up every day for hundreds of children, I could be trusted with a restaurant. But Dad's recovery, that was the real win. He'd regained mobility, speech, confidence. His eyes no longer carried the fear I saw after the stroke. He was home, surrounded by people who had finally learned to see one another clearly. The respect I'd fought for wasn't just about work. It was about seeing people for who they are, not who we assume them to be. My siblings had learned that the hard way, painfully, publicly, but fully. The cafeteria worker they dismissed had quietly built an empire they couldn't even envision. Some nights I'd sit at the table reviewing contracts while Dad watched old westerns in the background, and I'd think about the road that led me here. The pre-dawn alarms, the double shifts, the years of being underestimated, the choice to stay quiet when they mocked me. Every step led here, to success on my own terms, to a family who finally saw me, to the knowledge that respect is earned by action, not assumption. The truth didn't set us free like in a fairy tale. It shattered us first. Then, slowly, it made space to rebuild, something harder, more honest, and infinitely more valuable.
My siblings' attempts to tear me down had only revealed the strength of the life I'd built and the people who truly mattered. In the end, that was worth more than their approval ever could be.